Hey guys, this is Camfrey15 back at it with another video for you guys. And I'm back with another fairy tale arc review for you guys. And we are here to discuss the back half of the Tartaros arc, where mostly it involves fighting and stuff like that. But after the start to the very emotional, heavy Tartaros arc, um, well, we are here to discuss, I guess you can say, the fights and then obviously the end to this Tartarus arc that gets us into the end game of Fairy Tale. So yes, listen, the back half is just as good as the first half of the arc. Um, Again, this arc is just god tier in terms of stuff. And man, what is this crazy? So if you the emotional moments were here, well, at the first half, the second half has tons of emotions here. So, anyways, let's get into the story points and get into the review. So again, the Tartaros arc covers fairy tale manga chapters 356 to 417 and anime episodes 234 to anime episodes 265. Now, for this episode of my fairy tale arc review in specific, the manga chapters we're covering from where we last left off was manga chapter 385 to 417, which is obviously the end of the arc. And the anime episodes we're talking about is anime episodes 249 to 265. So yeah. Anyways, there we go. So last time we talked about the fairy tale arc reviews, where we last ended off, obviously Lucy sacrificed Aquarius to be able to save everyone in Fairy Tale and not only save herself, but really call upon help of the Celestial Spirit King. Now, this one where we last ended off, we had the Celestial Spirit King confronting, obviously, Mr. Mardgear himself. Now, Mardgear essentially talks about how he's surprised that there was somebody that was capable of summoning the Celestial Spirit King. And essentially, the Celestial Spirit King, questions like, why are you doing all this? Why are you making my friend cry? And stuff like that. And also he makes a mention, he's like, oh yeah, I see you're still holding on to that book. Which he's pointing out to the book of E&D. Now, the Celestial Spirit King obviously says, since you hurt my friends, and one of my friends is there crying, I'm gonna make sure you pay for that. So that's when he vows to defeat Mardgear. Now they have a fight, but Mardgear kind of in this fight says, like, what about the eclipse stuff you did? Didn't you do enough there? Now, again, if you're reading the manga and you don't know what the hell I'm talking about when it comes to the Eclipse Celestial Spirit, again, that was the anime only arc that I talked about there. And it was funny he mentioned that. I think I like how it brings a little bit more depth in the scene. Essentially, Mardgear is like, yeah, that Eclipse Celestial Spirit stuff, that was you. You caused as much turmoil, as much chaos as you're blaming me to cause right now. So look at yourself in the mirror. But essentially the king's like, yeah, I admit to causing so much chaos. But the one thing that you fail to understand is that my friends who are humans came back to help me and came back to stray me on the right path. You, on the other hand, you're so quick to turn away from humans and make sure that you want nothing to do with humans and stuff like that. So yeah. Anyways, going back to Lucy, Jackal sees this. He's like, what the hell did you do? So Jackal attacks Lucy, but she's protected by a barrier thanks to the Celestial Spirit King giving her Aquarius's powers. And this is officially the first time you can say we see Star Dress Lucy. In other words, if you don't know what Star Dress Lucy is, I'll bring it up in my Avatar arc review. But grand scheme of things, if you're a fairy tale fan, the Star Dress is when Lucy can literally has an outfit that represents her own celestial spirit. So you can say this is the first time she does the star dress in the Aquarius form. So she has Aquarius star dress, Aquarius form, and stuff like that. Now, she ends up doing a random entry on a Jackal and ends up defeating him. and stuff like that. So yeah. Now this makes Lucy so weak with energy, and the thing is that makes the Celestial Spirit King weak with energy because obviously, as a Celestial Spirit, you have as much power as your own wizard that has summoned you. And essentially, before the Celestial Spirit King essentially dips for the Celestial Spirit world, essentially uses this move called Galaxia Blade, and then what happens is he essentially undoes the Allegria curse. At the same time, he also petrifies Mard Gear. And that's when Mard Gear essentially starting to get sick of sick of all this shit going on. He's like, oh, I hate humanity. Trust and believe. I can wholeheartedly agree. I hate humanity too, especially in this current day and age when everybody's so stupid to realize we're in a whole pandemic and people want to try to freaking get back to normal. When the quickest way they can get back to normal is take a shot in their arm and or AKA wear a mask to protect themselves and protect other people. But you know, they don't want to do that. Trust me, the Tartaros members would probably love living here, or they would love killing the humans here in today's society, because my God, we are selfish, aren't we? So yeah, anyways, what happens is Tempester, Silver, and Tofuzar and Keys all try to gang up and attack Lucy after seeing what she did. But that's when we see Natsu, Gray, Gajil, and Juvia all protect her. Silver takes Gray away to have his whole battle. And then we have Gajil versus Tofuzar, Natsu versus Tempester, and Juvia versus Keys. Now after the other fairy tale members are free, excuse me, we have Makarov going to Magnolia at the ruins of the old fairy tale guild to find the Lumen Histoire, because he feels like this is the right time to use this secret weapon, which we later find out what apparently it is. We also cut over to the X seeds with Happy and Lily, and essentially Happy has a mushroom on his head, which essentially is Franmoth. So yeah. Now, when Carla and Wendy actually wake up with alongside Doranbolt, they see that that one face statue they took out, or that one face pillar they took out, yeah, there's only about over 3,000 more of them all over the continent. So they're essentially screwed right now. So yeah. We get a pretty interesting scene here where we see more of the growth of Wendy. She actually legit cuts her hair short. Now, by the end of this arc, she literally grows it back thanks to cancer. Honestly, if you ask me, if they gave Wendy a new look with the short hair for the rest of the series, I would have been fine with it. But I can understand the reason why they gave her long hair, because her long hair / really her pigtails is her more iconic design than a short hair Wendy that was really only here in the back half of the arc, and then that's kind of it. And like I said, they have at the end of the arc when everything's done, they freaking have cancer just gourmet, like I guess give her extensions or something like that to have her hair grow back. Again, if you ask me, if it was me, I would have kept the design, her short hair design, because it shows the growth she's been through, and it goes to show that she's turned a new leaf and saying, I'm not going to be a weak kid that just cries and whines and acts like a little kid now. I'm going to grow up and, you know, be on my own and take care of myself. Essentially having the assertiveness for Wendy to see the growth and development she's been through. I don't know why I'm guessing the people in Mashima's quarters when he was writing out this said, hey, have her hair grow back because it's not Wendy. Wendy was short hair, but if it was me, I would have kept the short hair. Personally, because it shows the growth and development, and it would have made Wendy look at least somewhat different than most of the fairy tale girls with long hair, because most of the fairy tale girls have long hair. I would have liked it if Wendy had the short hair. I would have liked that personally, but that's just me. So yeah. Now we actually cut over to Urza. Now that Urza's freed from the Allegria, she continues her fight with Minerva. Essentially, Urza asks Minerva, why is she doing all this? Why did you give into the darkness? And this is when we get a flashback of Minerva, and we get the understandings of how she became the person she became when she was an adult. And essentially, we find out when she was a kid or when she was younger, she was trained by Giemma, but Giemma kind of abused her in this whole torturing type of training regime, essentially saying that he has no time for the weak and only the strong must survive. And essentially, he does all these kind of horrific acts. Like he kind of beats her down. He leaves her in a forest to fend for herself. And then he even freaking makes her go up against one of her friends, one of the guild mates, Sabretooth guild mates against her. And it comes to the point where Minerva actually does an attack that knocks him out. And then Giemma just kills him. And Minerva's like, but he's our friend. And essentially, Giemma is like, there's no need for friends in a guild, only about the strong. And since that point in her training, only things she's been cared about is getting stronger and stronger to be the strongest. And she's never had that gene where she cared. That lost because of the abuse she had to her. And you kind of feel for Minerva, actually. And even you have a point where Ursa's like, look, I might not be able to forgive you for everything you've done in the past, but at least what I can know is that you can find a way to atone for the sins you've caused, and you can find a way to get your life back on track. I do like that. The fact that Ursa was willing to give, Minerva essentially a second chance, even though she's like, look, what you did in the past, what you did in the Grand Magic Games, and what you did even in the Sun Village arc was horrific. And what is it? And it's something that I look at you and I might never forgive you, but I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself and I'll forgive you for what you've done in the past. I really do like that. I really do like that. And again, it shows character depth to Minerva. And we understand why she's this, typical conniving, AKA bitch she was in the Grand Magic Games arc, because her dad was a bitch as well. The thing is, and that was kind of the thing with Minerva. She was always afraid of being weak, too weak to where, people like her father looked down on her for not being strong enough. And but Ursa again reminds Minerva, listen, you don't have to feel like that, because guess what? There's people out there that are looking for you, people out there that care about you, which is in reference to people in the Sabretooth Guild like Sting and Rogue. All of a sudden, after Minerva finally turns over a new leaf and she's now on the side of good, Margir shows up and he's about to literally kill them. But before he kills them, when it looks like he's going to kill Minerva, Sting and Rogue show up to save her. Now, Margir goes on to tell them, like, oh, yeah, there's over 1,000 face pillars, so there's not a damn thing you can do. Your magic is going to be gone regardless, and it's going to be over and stuff like that. So, yeah, also he makes a mention, like, it's going to go off within the hour. So, yeah. Now, the reason why they're wondering, obviously the face stuff is still activating and there's more face popping up, it's because of Keys using his necromancy abilities to essentially control the chairman, that obviously Chairman Crawford that died a long time ago. My God. But, obviously that's the whole thing. So Ursa and Minerva go to stop him along with the X-Seeds, while Sting and Rogue stay back to fight Margir and stuff like that. So, yeah, now we covered the Gray fight. Gray is also told the same information by Silver, and this is when we find out some huge revelations. Silver is Gray's father, because the earrings is a total dead giveaway, and the fact that they look similar is a giveaway, and the fact that they have the same type of magic freaking is a dead giveaway as well. So when I first watched this, it was a freaking huge shocker for me. I was like, what? But then again, I was like, I could see it coming. Makes sense. And stuff like that. Now, Gray at first doesn't believe what his father's saying, but obviously Silver's like, well, yes, I'm still your father, but technically I'm not. But yeah, essentially, Silver says he's actually Deliora and stuff like that. So that kind of pisses Gray off. That's when they start their fight. Now, cutting over to the Natsu group battle, Lucy tries to fight, but she's too weak and stuff like that. And the thing is, they continue their fight, and that's kind of a most of the thing. Now, essentially, the reasoning behind cutting back to the Gray fight, the reasoning behind Silver, or the fact that Deliora is still alive, because you're wondering, but I thought he died a few years ago in the timeline. And essentially, the thing is, because of Hell's Core, the regeneration type of room pod area, essentially it brought Deliora back, and he came across Silver's dead body, and let's just say he just put his soul into it, and there you go, and stuff like that. So yeah. Now the thing is, Keys, who is fighting Juvia, is saying, well, Gray is about to relive his past, and he's going to die because of it. Now, in the fight with Silver, Gray finds out, well, Silver is somewhat like him. The only difference is Silver is an ice demon slayer. And the thing is, Gray can't do much of any damage to Silver is because, well, guess what? He can actually eat ice like as if he was an ice dragon slayer in some case. But it makes sense. If he's a slayer, he would be able to eat his own element. So he's literally eating all of Gray's elements, and he's like, please, if you think you can beat me, do that, and stuff like that. Now, that's when Gray gets the idea to channel the demon ice, and tries to use it on, obviously, Silver. But even though it affects Silver, it doesn't really affect him. It's like a Pokemon move where it's like not very effective, because, hey, he's still an ice wizard and stuff like that. So, yeah. Now, cutting over to Wendy real quick before we get back to the Gray stuff. Since there's a lot of face pillars, Wendy has a plan, and Wendy's plan is to use Warren's magic of telepathy to be able to get in contact with all the other guilds, so they can help destroy the face pillars. Again, cutting back to the Gray fight. I know I'm doing, back and forth, back and forth. Well, that's how they handled it in the anime. Anyways, Gray essentially thinks about using Ice Shell to defeat Silver, but you see he's not really doing it. And also, too, at the same time, when he's doing it, he's thinking of everybody who means the most to him, including the fact that I like how at the end they put Juvia there, because at this point in time, Juvia is literally the one important person left in his life that is still alive, that is there for him. And essentially, Silver is like, you think you can use all these attacks, but it's not going to work, especially on an ice demon slayer. And when it looks like Gray is using Ice Shell, Silver breaks through it, but like all the other times, they were fake copies. Eventually, what happens is Gray manages to unfreeze these cannonballs, uses this move called Ice Make Vambrace, and essentially throws the freaking cannonball through Silver's chest and literally blows a whole hole through his chest. And that's when Silver essentially, or from Gray's, that's when he's like, why'd you make me do this? And that's when he tells Silver, like, you weren't Deliora, you were just pretending to be. You're really my dad. So that's a huge shocker. At first, now, it was a nice swerve, like, oh shit, it makes sense that it would be Deliora. Deliora would take the face of Gray's father, deceased father, and try to kill him and get back at everybody who freaking means the most to him in Gray's life. Which, by the time you get it revealed again, no, that's his legit father. It kind of hits you like, fuck, he actually damn near almost killed his legit father. Now, speaking of the tie-ins to this fight, essentially we find out what Keys tells Juvia is the fact that Keys, with his curse power, kept Silver alive with his necromancy. And essentially, that's when we kind of find out Silver's plan was killing all these demons, and then eventually was going to kill all the 9 gates of Tartaros. And that's what his whole goal was. But then he came across the Grand Magic Games footage and saw Gray in it, because at first he thought Gray was dead. He thought Gray died to Deliora in the past when he revived, but he saw Gray participating in the Grand Magic Games, and he knew, like, I had to pass my legacy to my son and stuff like that. So essentially, the thing is, he wants Gray to kill him, but Gray can't bring himself to do it because that's his father. Now, again, this is cutting over to Juvia Keys fight. Silver asked Juvia to tell her, like, listen, you have to defeat Keys because he's essentially controlling me. Also, too, he's controlling the chairman by activating Face. If you can finish and kill him, you can save everybody. But at the same cost, Juvia knows that if she defeats Keys, well, guess what? Silver is going to die. So yeah, now we see Juvia's kind of hesitant to do it, but eventually she gets inside Keys' body, and then she literally blows him from the inside out and ends up defeating him. Silver dies, but he tells Juvia, make sure you watch after Gray and you take care of him. And obviously Juvia says she will. Silver and Gray tells, or Silver tells Gray, the reason why he learned Ice Demon Slaying magic was so he could kill E&D, who we find out is a fire demon, or who has the ability to use fire. Huh. Very interesting there. Huh. So, a demon that can use fire. Now, you would think that had some ties to the devil because demons and the devil makes sense. But there's only really been one character in this storyline that we know that can, I don't know, use fire. Yeah. Again, I'll probably save it to the end of the video. But yeah. Obviously, if you've seen the series, you know who the hell I'm talking about. But yes. So yeah. So what happens is in his dying breath, Silver gives Gray the ability to become an Ice Demon Slayer. Now we see Mark Gear beating up Sting and Rogue pretty damn easily. And the thing is, we find out he has not put down the Book of E&D at all yet. Cutting over to Natsu and Gajo fight. Natsu and Gajo both respectively use their Lightning Flame Dragon and their Shadow Iron Dragon forms, which, again, I totally forgot that Gajo used his Iron Shadow Dragon form in this fight with Tofuzar. I thought I only used it like one time in the Grand Magic Games arc, and we never saw it again. So, yeah. But so they eventually give them a run from their money, and then that's when Tofuzar and Tempester essentially transform to their Aetherius forms. In other words, from this point on, essentially we see all the 9 demon gates of Tartaros, most of the ones that are still alive at this point. Well, it was really freaking started off with Sayla, but this is kind of but after Sayla, this kind of starts where most of the demon gates just transform into their true Aetherius forms and stuff like that to give them that power boost and stuff like that. So yeah. So eventually we see Tofuzar unleash this very black water that eventually drowns everybody except Gajiel. And in order to save everyone, Gajiel has to defeat him. But essentially, Gajiel gets beat down and everything. And when it looks like he's about to lose all the air, Levy comes in right then and there. And, oh man, this is why I love to say it. Godly is the best ship, because it's the only canonical ship that we've seen in the Fairy Tail storyline where we actually see a kiss. Yes, yes, yes. Even though technically Levy was giving Gajiel CPR through the mouth, it was a kiss. It was lip-to-lip kiss. Now, don't explain to me how she was able to give him air like that. What'd she do? Just freaking kiss him and like... I don't know. She definitely had to get her tongue up in his mouth and everything. But yes, we see Gajo and Levy kiss in this arc, and this is their first kiss, and this is the only canonical Fairy Tail ship kiss we actually see with all the canonical ships we have in this series. This is the only ship that, guess what? Even though they showed it from a distance, they clearly kissed, or she kissed him morally. Which I find it funny after he reawakens. She kind of passes out. Tofuzar goes after her. And then I love the whole scene where Gajo protects her and he's like, don't touch her. Obviously, Gajo knows how to protect his girl. That's his girl, I'm telling you. I love Gali. Gali is such a cute ship, man. And oh, man, they're just... See, I'm so happy that Mashima hooked them up. They're gonna have a kid. I'm so glad, man. Oh, spoilers, my bad. But hey, that's if you didn't see the Fairy Tail story. Listen, at this point, I don't care if I'm giving spoilers out for future arcs. You should have been watched the entire Fairy Tail story to begin with, anyways. So yeah. The one thing I love is the fact that, you know, when Gajo finally reawakens and wakes Levy up, he's like, Levy, do you have more of that air? Do you think you give me more of that air? And Levy's thinking of this, and she's thinking, he wants more air. And then she's thinking, like, wait, he wants me to kiss him again. And she obviously gets flustered by this because she can't kiss her, but freaking God is like, no, can't you use your magic, your soul script magic to create air? And that's when she's like, what was I thinking? And then that's when she realized, like, why did I do what I did? Essentially saying, like, why did I kiss him when I could have just gave him an air bubble? Hey, Levy, listen. You kissed him. That's all what we needed to see. Again, Levy is a woman of culture. Honestly, if you ask me, Wendy is definitely my top waifu. Okay, honestly, Levy's a close second. I'm sorry. Look, people, you don't understand. Sometimes these side fairy tale girls are underrated. I think Levy's a very underrated character. She's waifu material. Trust and believe. I definitely would hit that. Props to guys. He hit that. He hit that with Levy. So, hey, he got her pregnant, not me. But definitely, I would hit that. Anyways, he ends up Gajo, after getting his air, ends up continuing his fight against Tofuzar, but essentially Tofuzar armors up his body, and essentially it puts Gajo at a disadvantage. That's when we kind of see Gajo remember back to the past, back when the old Magic Council was a thing, back before Phantom Lord's disembarkment, or disembandment, when they disbanded. Essentially remembers the word of this old Magic Council woman named Belino, and she essentially tells him, like, look, you have the spirit to do good. I can see it within you that you can do good things, and it's never too late to change. Obviously, Gajo at that point in time, because he was a bad dude, he's like, oh, please, I'm not a goody two-shoes type of guy. I ain't like anybody in Fairy Tale or anything. But we find out that same councilwoman was the same person he went to try to protect from. Obviously, the Tartaros members at the time were killing all the old council members, and they showed up too late. And he blames himself for not being there on time to protect her. But he goes on to say, like, if you could have saw me now, you would have been proud of me, and how much I've changed. We also kind of get a nice, adorable, kind of nice scene where Belino acknowledged Gajo at one point where she said, you know, you remind me of my son. So that was nice. Now, Gajo ends up defeating Tofuzar by turning his iron to steel because the carbon in the water, and he ends up beating Tofuzar. That's when it looks like Tempester is going to get involved in the fight start fighting Gajo, but this is when we see a battered down freaking Loxus show up. And yes, he still has the Bane particles within him, and he's essentially fighting on freaking reserves and stuff like that. And he's getting freaking beat down pretty damn badly and stuff like that. So yeah, but the way Loxus beats him is essentially he does enough attacks where the leftover water on the ground had conducted already with Loxus's lightning, and essentially Loxus does a lightning dragon roar. It's lightning dragon roar. It surrounds Tempester around a bunch of lightning and ends up finishing him off. Now Tempester tries to do the same type of trick again, like he did to start the arc in his first fight with Loxus by blowing up and releasing all these Bane particles. But Gray shows up and he essentially freezes it with his demon slaying magic, and stuff like that. Now Urza and Minerva, they finally get to the control center. They eventually get ganged up by Celia and Kyoka. Mira Jane comes in, takes out Celia, but then that's when Kyoka says, we're doing this for obviously Lord Zareth and everything, and I will carry the burden. So that's when we have Kyoka absorb Celia's life force, and this is when we see Urza and Kyoka start their battle and stuff like that. Now, during this fight, there's rumbling going on and stuff like that. Now, we see Wendy collapse over and she can't move at all. And the same goes for the other Dragon Slayers as well. For some reason, they can't move, and they're just stuck in place. Lo and behold, they hear the sound going on, and guess what? Oh, if you thought things weren't crazy enough with this whole Tartaros Arc, you know, demons and fights and stuff like that, and it looks like the world's going to end with this whole Face Project. Oh, yes. The thing that tried to kill everybody in Fairy Tale who was on Tenra Island is back. Yes, Acnologia, the Black Dragon, is back for more vengeance. Yeah, apparently he sensed all this power going on like he did with Tenra, and he's just like, yes, bitches, I'm here to play. It's time for all you ninjas to die. So he comes out and he's like, okay, it's time to fuck some shit up. And obviously all the Fairy Tale members, including Kana, instead, Kana's just freaked out when she sees Acnologia. She's like, There's no fucking way we're getting out of this. There's no way we're coming out of this alive. If we even come out of this alive, this is a freaking miracle. And honestly, in their shoes, you can't blame them. You literally in the middle of nowhere, because remember, the freaking Tartaros Guild, the Pluto Grim essentially crashed in the middle of nowhere, literally, like a few, miles away from Magnolia. Like it literally, crashed in the desert essentially. And obviously, I wouldn't blame any of the fairy tale members, be like, yeah, we got nowhere to run. Last time we were saved by a fairy sphere. I don't think that's going to happen again this time. So we're screwed. So yeah. Now this is when we cut over Natsu, and speaking of the way he acts, we see this whole thing come out. And if you thought things didn't get crazy enough with Acnologia showing up, well, guess what? Crazy things happen in this arc. Igneel actually comes out of freaking Natsu. He was in Natsu the entire freaking time. So the same dragon Natsu was looking for all of this damn time, the same dragon they've been foreshadowing this entire series up to this point, was always within Natsu this very time. And then we also find out that the other dragon slayers were within their own representative. The dragons were inside their own representative dragon slayer, and they're all there to the party and stuff like that. So yeah. Now Natsu tries to get answers from Igneel, saying like, where have you been this entire time? I've been looking for you. And Igneel's like, I'll tell you all of that later. Right now, I gotta go take out Acnologia, and I need you to do me a request. Go take out that Mar Gear guy and go steal the Book of E&D for me. Don't destroy it or anything. Yes, don't destroy it. I need you to steal it. Bring it back to me and I'll tell you everything. Which I find a lovely plug-in where he's like, yeah, don't destroy that book because you're going to need it. Again, another foreshadowing to the Alvarez Empire, which if you know the reason why, the Book of E&D cannot be destroyed. So yeah. Anyways, this is when we see Mard Gear essentially get desperate with the whole dragon stuff going on, because you just have freaking Acnologia and Igneel in the background just duking it out. Like it's some good stuff. It's some good stuff. It's some cool stuff. And you're like, okay, what's better way to combat Acnologia? Get your own fucking dragon. So Mard Gear essentially tells Kyoka, hey, I need you to do body link magic, link up with the Face Project. So you can detonate it faster. And essentially Kyoka's like, but I'm going to die. And Mard Gear's like, what? You're afraid of it? You're dying regardless, so who cares? And that's what happens is she does body link magic. She transforms to her ethereal form and literally cuts through Urza like a hot knife through butter and destroys her armor like that. And this is when we can clearly see that Kyoka is very, very much stronger than she originally was. And every armor Urza throws up against, well, guess what? It's literally being destroyed. And two at the same time, she's feeling the pain of 1,000 needles sticking through her chest, like it was as if you're freaking taking shots all over your body. My God, I don't want to think of that. I'm not a needles guy. Yet I'm getting my shot tomorrow. Great. Yeah, it's the second dose at least. At this point of this recording, at this point of August 19th, 2021, I'll be getting my second dose of the vaccine. Anyways, this is when we get to the very controversial thing. So in this fight with Kyoka, there's a point in this fight where Urza gets damn near, I think, all but her feeling, all but her feeling, but most of her sense is taken away. Now, this is very controversial from the standpoint as this is a part where a lot of fairy tale people who watch the series did not like this part in the fairy tale story. Listen, I don't really care because at this point, okay, it's anime reasonings, of course. But I will agree that definitely this is kind of not a good thing. Listen, Majima probably should have handled this in a different way than have all of Urza's freaking literally all her senses taken away. Like she can't hear, she can't taste, she can't see. And and essentially she just defeats Kyoka with willpower alone. That's essentially how they kind of answer it. Yes, it's BS. Honest to God, it's BS. It makes no sense. Even if it's anime logic, if all your sensors are being taken away, there's no chance in hell you're winning a fight if you can't hear, see, taste, or smell. There's no way. There's no way. The only reason why Kyoka left the feeling in her is so every time Urza got cut up or hit by her, she felt a pain of about 1,000 needles. Which again, let me just say this: when you have the Urza where she gets tortured, and even in this scene, again, credit to Colleen Klinkenbeard, she freaking screams like she's really in freaking pain. My God, honestly, it hurts to watch actually, because especially the fact that you have freaking Kyoka like, oh, I'm loving this, and you're gonna be tortured. Like she even says, like, oh, you're gonna be like some sort of like slave to Mard Gear, and you're gonna obey his every order. So like Mard Gear is gonna do some dirty acts to her or something like that. Which is so disgusting and so weird and everything. But yeah, but eventually Urza defeats Kyoka and knocks her out. Now in the anime, they kind of do some sort of flashback in the episode, like where they cut to the fights and stuff like that, and it's weird and confusing because by the time like the second and last episode of the arc happens, they finally get to the aftermath of that fight, which makes no sense because earlier they keep cutting back to like events that took place during these different fights and stuff like that. Like literally, like literally when Urza defeats Kyoka, that's the same time when Natsu and Gray defeat Mard Gear. Like I see what they were going for, but they should have just focused on the other battles and do flashbacks to the Urza Minerva battle, because at this point you're confused. Because if you're watching this, you're like, but I thought Urza defeated Kyoka. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, now when Kyoka's defeated, they see on the phase clock that it goes 0000, which means time is up and stuff like that. Anyways, in the fight against Mard Gear, Natsu gets some help from Sting and Rogue. And this is when we see Mard Gear starting to get annoyed with their freaking efforts. And he's like, oh, now you pissed me off. And now I feel anger. Now Igneal tells Acnologia that a long time ago, he tried to take him out. And this is when we finally see Acnologia talk. Now, again, I watched the English dub for Fairy Tail, which I still think is probably one of the best English dubs I've heard, especially in Funimation's. And personally, if you ask me, I think most of Funimation's dubs are pretty good. A lot of people like to shit on Funimation's dub because Funimation's dubs are the whole type of thing to hate, especially because the Vic Miyaga stuff, which, fun fact, in the dub, Vic Miyaga voices Mard Gear, which I thought he did a phenomenal job here. But going back to Acnologia's voice actor, yes, if you watch the English dub, Acnologia is voiced by none other than the great J. Michael Tatum. Yes, the great J. Michael Tatum. And let me just say this. He makes freaking Acnologia's voice sound badass. I'm sorry. I love it. Listen, J. Michael Tatum, he's great. Obviously, he has some funny comedic lines when he's Ida from My Hero Academia, but I love his performance as Acnologia in the series. The only thing that sucks about this is the fact that he gets the end of the Tartaros arc and then most of the Alvarez Empire arc where he just talks the most, literally. But then again, what do I know? Acnologia is a character that only appeared in 3 arcs, and that's it. Tenro, at the end of that, and the end of Tenro, at the end of Tartaros, and then he was mostly a main player throughout the entire Alvarez Empire arc. So yes, it's still kind of weird that they gave him a voice, but then again, it makes sense because he was once a human, so it would make sense how he could talk as a dragon. So yeah, and essentially, again, like I said, Blood's like, yeah, you've been trying to take me out, but listen, I'm gonna do what I've been doing all these years, and that's killing every damn dragon I see in my face. So yeah, so yeah. Anyways, essentially, we cut back to the Mard Gear fight. Mard Gear is like, having feelings is fucking pathetic. Listen, they're useless emotions. You humans are so pathetic. So he puts down the book of E&D, and he goes sits on his throne, and he's like, okay, yeah, come attack me if you feel like it. And that's what Natsu, Sting, and Rogue do, but they can't affect him. They literally don't do no damage. He literally is blocking them at will from just sitting down in his chair. And let me tell you, if you play the Fairy Tail game, especially at this part in the game, at that part in the game when you're fighting against Mard Gear, oh brother, that has to have been the most annoying, the most annoying battle in the game of Fairy Tail. The Mardgear boss battle is the most annoying boss battle in the game. Never again will I put myself through that stress. Again, that depends if I want to continue my walkthrough on my channel of the game. We'll have to see how I feel about that, but I'm not looking forward to that. Again, the Fairy Tail game just had to have the two best arcs in the series, but had the two most annoying final boss battles. Future Rogue and frickin' Future Rogue was annoying enough with frickin' Mother Glare and his frickin' Dragon Unit in the way, but frickin' Mardgear in the game was fucking annoying to beat. Anyways, that's what happened. So yeah. Now, eventually at this point in time, we have Wendy finally catch up with the others and essentially ask Warren if he can do the plan that she wants him to do. But Warren is like, yeah, my telepathy can only cover a small margin of area, so I can't really do it and everything. But then that's when Makarov tells everyone, listen, we have one last reserve, one last backup plan, and we can use Fairy Tail's secret weapon, the Lumen Histoire, which we see in this whole thing, and the fact that, well, in the Lumen Histoire, in this crystal, we see the body of First Master Mavis Vermilion, which we know that the Mavis we've been seeing has been a ghost. Here, it's a legit real life body, and we don't know what the hell it does. Why is the body of Mavis Vermilion in this crystal to begin with? Again, that's later explained in, obviously, the next arc we'll talk about next week, which is the Fairy Tail Zero arc and the Alvarez Empire arc, which is the main reason why Zeref goes to attack Fairy Tail and stuff like that. So, yeah. Now, Makaro says he wants everybody to go with her. Elfman doesn't want to go there because he's obviously feels like he let everybody down with what he did with the stunt he did. He also tells Dornbull to show up, but he tells him after this whole event is done, I want you to erase everybody's memory of the Lumen Histoire, including your own memory, so you don't know about this because it's obviously Fairy Tail's biggest secret and stuff like that. Anyways, we cut over back to the fight with Mardgear, and obviously Mardgear's talking about his purpose to see Zeref, and obviously the Dragon Slayers, Natsu, Sing Road are like, why are you doing this to see Zeref then? Go see the bastard then. And essentially, he goes on to say, the main purpose of the 9 Demon Gates seeking out Zeref is because of Zeref's everlasting tirade of being essentially immortal. Essentially, he goes on telling the reason why Zeref created the book of Zeref and the demons he made in it was so his demons could kill him. And the thing is, he says, but Zeref made this one very powerful demon that will guarantee you will kill him, and that is our master of the Tartaros Guild, Master E&D. And the reasoning why they're using the face whole thing is because there is a magic seal in the book of E&D that essentially is sealing E&D away on not making him come out. Essentially, they said, well, if we get rid of this magic using face, the seal will break from E&D, and E&D will finally come back, lead us, and we will all take down Zeref together, and stuff like that. Which is very much interesting. The fact that Zeref, I kind of get Kaido vibes from the standpoint of, if you watch One Piece, Kaido wants to die. Like, he doesn't want to stay alive, but he wants to die. And it's kind of the same thing with Zeref. And that's the thing about immortality. Eventually these characters who are immortal, they get that immortality. They want to do what they want to do with the plans. They just don't realize, oh shit, I can never die. I'm going to be alive and I'm going to be alone probably for the rest of my life. So I can't make connections with people because most of those people, the connections I make, will end up dying. So obviously he's like, yeah, immortality sucks. So essentially that's when he made his book of demons, the books of Zeref, which obviously are his different demons that he's all made. And to go to the fact that you go to this length to make a demon that is so strong that would kill him, it's crazy to believe that. So yeah. Now again, eventually Mark Gear powers up again. He looks like he's gonna be taking out Natsu and Sting and Rogue and the others, but Gray shows up, saves him with his Ice Demon Slaying magic, gives Mark Gear some good shots and everything. And when it looks like Gray is going to finally take down Mark Gear, we see an old face show up, and it's Giemma. Yes, the same Giemma I was talking about not too long ago about the Minerva backstory. He shows up, and we find out that Giemma sacrificed the rest of his humanity left within him to become a demon so he could become stronger and everything. Kind of messed up the fact that they took not only Minerva, but they took Giemma and stuff like that. Now, the interesting thing is Mark Gear says he's stronger than all the 9 demon gates. And I'm like, how many times have I heard that statement? But okay. Now, we see Sting and Rogue fight him while Gray and Natsu fight Mark Gear. Now, Mark Gear, before he continues his fight with Natsu and Gray, he transforms into his Aetherius form. And my God, even in the freaking game, again, when he transforms into his Aetherius form, was annoying fight to fight. So yeah, now Mark Gear in his fight after transforming to his Aetherius form, he essentially is beating the ever-living shit out of Gray and Natsu. Now, Sting and Rogue, they're having a tough time with Giemma, but essentially the whole thing about in this fight is the fact that Sting and Rogue are telling Giemma, we change for the better. We change Sabretooth to make it to where it acts more like a guild, where it treats its members like family. But obviously Giemma's like, doing that is showing weakness, and that's going to give people's weakness away. And obviously Giemma only believes about culling the weak and having the strong. But you have this nice thing where Sting and Rogue tell him, listen, I don't care. You know, we've changed for the reasons, and we have our friends. Working together is going to frickin' help us in the long run than working alone. And I like the whole parallel to the fact that we know what a Sabretooth guild is when they only care about themselves and they work alone. They got nowhere. You know, we saw at the end of the Grand Magic Games arc, whether how you feel about it, how Sting, you know, essentially gave up. Essentially, Sting saw that all my comrades tried to fight Fairytale and other guilds on their own. I couldn't do it. And I was trying to do the same thing. What's the point? I can't do this alone. I need my friends alongside me to help me out and stuff like that. So, yeah, eventually what happens is they use this move. Sting and Rogue use the combined move of White Shadow, Dragon, Rough Silk, and they end up beating Giemma. So I like to see that they overcame their old master. Now, Natsu and Gray, they start to get the upper hand on Mark Gear, but the thing is, he's barely taking any damage in his Aetherius form. He then tells them that he's going to show them this primordial magic, and then he says that the thing with this primordial magic is that E&D studied this type of stuff in the past, and that's when he turned that stuff into curses. So that's how the origin of curses got started out. E&D looked at this, turned the primordial magic to curses, and there you go. Now, he uses this curse that is the ultimate curse. It's called Memento Mori. And essentially, it erases everything in existence. Now, Gray and Natsu get caught up in the blast. And essentially, Mark Gear is like reveling at his accomplishment. He's like, yes, one step closer to waking up Master E&D and taking out Zera for good. But Gray and Natsu are okay thanks to Gray essentially absorbing most of the blast and essentially becomes a half demon, where you see when he was a demon slayer at first, he had like this marking on his arm, on his forearm, but now like half of his body is all blacked out and everything and stuff like that. Now, this is when he kind of passes out, and this is like, okay, Natsu, I leave it to you. So Natsu goes up, starts fighting Mark Gear and everything. Now, the other guilds, seeing this face and getting the notices from Fairytale, all the other guilds start to fight or start to try to take down the face step pillars. But we see in their efforts, the face pillars literally do next to near no, or get no damage on them, which is like, it's just like the Grand Magic Games arc, They fought all these dragons and they barely did any, if not no damage to these dragons. Well, same thing here goes for these face things. Again, don't ask me why the Magic Council made a damn weapon like this, but okay. Especially from the standpoint, there's like thousands of them over the freaking continent. So yeah. Anyways, when Natsu continues his fight with Mark Gear, which again, something that totally slipped my mind that I forgot he did. Natsu manages to transform into his Dragon Force form. And again, the season 2 way of how they draw his Dragon Force form looks a lot cooler than the early stages of Fairy Tail, how they looked at. Obviously, it's more detailed here, and they actually show him having red scales and everything. I think he does his Dragon Force form in the final battle against Zeref. So yeah, I'll just when I get to that part, I'll get to that part. But yeah. So he goes, he fights him, and then he ends up doing a move, Crimson Lotus Phoenix Blade. And then the thing is, obviously the attack wasn't strong enough to finish off Margear, and that's when that was kind of a setup of Natsu, and Gray finishes Margear off with an Ice Devil's Zeref Destruction Bow, which pierces essentially Margear through the gut and everything. Now, cutting over to worldwide stuff, everyone in the continent starts to lose their magic power because at this point, Face is about to activate and all the pillars are about to blow up. But this is when, like I said earlier, all the dragons were within the Dragon Slayers, and they end up, so Gardenia, Metallicana, or no, not Gardenia, that's a freaking gym leader from Pokemon. Grandina, Metallicana, Skidrum, and Weislogia, they all come back and they all collectively together destroy the face pillars and everything, and knocking down every face in the continent, really Fiore. And essentially it saves all the magic for the people in Fiore and including the entire continent as well, and stuff like that. So this is when Igneel tells Natsu like that the Dragon Slayers dragons were inside each of them. And there was a special spell they used with antibodies that essentially prevented the Dragon Slayers, Natsu, Wendy, Gajul, Sting, and Rogue from turning into dragons. Because if you remember from what Zokonis said with Acnologia, he used so much dragon slaying magic, he transformed into a dragon. And essentially, Igneel is like, oh yeah, we use these antibodies, we took care of that, so you guys won't be transforming into dragons and stuff like that. So there's a second reason why also they showed up again. But Agnologia starts fighting again and everything. Now, Igneel again tells Natsu, listen, get the Book of Zeref, not the Book of Zeref, the Book of E&D and give it to me. Now, Igneel also goes on to tell Agnologia, you need to stop this. Listen, it's defeated, it's done. There's no way that E&D is going to be revived now. And obviously, Agnologia is like, bitch, you think I care about anything related to the books of Zeref and Zeref as a whole? I'm king of the dragons. Don't get me wrong with this. I could kill him, and stuff like that. Now, this is when we see eventually Natsu look to go get the book of Zeref, but Gray has it in his hands. And essentially, Natsu's like, okay, Gray, listen, I need the book. You heard the dragon, give me the book. And Gray is like, sorry, I can't do this. I got a promise I have to uphold myself, which is kind of teasing something you see in the Alvarez Empire arc. This is just a foreshadowing of what it looked like, because it literally looks like Gray and Natsu are about to go fisticuffs and fight over this book of E&D. But lo and behold, Zeref shows up out of nowhere, and he's like, hey, everybody, did you forget about me? Oh, yes, me, the Black Wizard Zeref. First things first, I'm going to do you a favor. That's my book, yoink. I'm going to take that. Thank you for holding this very warm to me and stuff like that. Listen, listen, you guys put up a valiant effort defeating my demons and stuff like that, which, funny enough, Margear talks to her. He's like, Master Zeref, you're here. And Zeref looks at him. He's like, oh, you. Margear, yeah. You failed, man. So much for your big old plan, huh? And all came up in a heap of smoke. He puts like the essence of Margear into the book that is titled Margear, and he literally just burns it. And he's like, Margear has served his purpose. He's nothing anymore. And yeah, he's dead. So Margear is literally dead. And he's like, he was nothing special anyways. He couldn't accomplish his goals. So what's the point in keeping him alive? And essentially, he's like, oh, yeah, I wonder, Natsu, will you get stronger than me? I really do wonder that. Because if you are, just let you know, if you think this was over, it's not over. I want to make sure you know what true terror is. And then he shows the eyes, like he shows his red eyes, like he's about to do something. And then he kind of walks in. He's like, "Yep, peace, bitches. I'm out of here." Which essentially is him foreshadowing the events in the Alvarez Empire arc, saying that I'm done playing games. I'm done fucking around. I'm about to take all you sons of bitches out, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. So he foreshadows that threat. So essentially that threat he made to Natsu and the others was just mostly to Natsu, but that was just a threat essentially referencing the Alvarez Empire arc. Now, quick thing before I continue the arc, the fight with Mardir, I thought was really damn good. Honestly, it was better than what I thought it was. It's definitely a top 10 fairy tale fight. And I do like the fact that Gray was the guy that got the finishing blow. And technically, there was a team up between Natsu and Gray to defeat Mardir, but I do like the fact that Gray got the finishing blow on Mardir, essentially finishing him off because, one, he's a nice demon slayer, so it makes sense that he would take out the final villain in a case of this arc. Oh, man, if only for Dragon Ball, they went the way of having Vegeta win a fight. Now, as of this recording, if you didn't know, Vegeta lost the most current antagonist in Dragon Ball Super, and he lost doing it using a new form. Oh, man. In Dragon Ball, they sure as hell hate Vegeta, right? All right. Anyways, we're not talking about Vegeta. We're not talking about Dragon Ball. We're talking about Fairy Tail. So, yeah. Anyways, the thing is, we find out what Ignio's second reasoning behind coming back and the dragons coming back. Essentially, the dragons were waiting for the right time to come back to defeat Acnologia and stuff like that. So that's the second reason why they came back. Now they clash, and we see Acnologia we see Ignio take an arm off of Acnologia, but Acnologia literally rips a whole damn hole through his entire fucking left side of his body, of Ignio's body, which essentially kills him. But then again, they say, all right, the dragon's already dead now. Listen, I'll talk more about the Acnologia stuff in my Alvarez Empire arc review when that whole thing is happening. So I'm going to honestly, I thought I was going to get to that, but I think I'll save it because I want to save the suspense on my thoughts towards Acnologia. Now that's not going to be until the last arc review, which is the Alvarez Empire arc part 2 review. But personally, if you ask me, I personally think Acnologia probably should have died in this arc, in the Tartaros arc, because it felt right to do it, but whatever. So yeah. Anyways, since the world is saved, that's the whole thing. Now, Makarov, he says that humanity was saved because of the dragons, and especially the fact that he was scared to use the Lumen Histoire. But Mavis comes up on him. He's like, "No, you weren't afraid to use it. It just wasn't the right time. But listen, there will be a time to when we have to use this," which is another foreshadowing to the Alvarez Empire arc. Essentially, Tartaros, and essentially the thing is, like all the other arcs, Tartaros was built up, and two, from what I looked up on the Fairy Tail Wiki, Tartaros for most of the part was already drawn out with how Tartaros was going to be, like just like the Tenro Island arc. It was already drawn out with the story points and everything that was going to happen in it, which obviously is great storytelling from Majima. But just like how the other arcs were essentially building up to this moment, well, obviously the Tartaros arc and the tail end of this arc essentially foreshadows the events that are going to be coming in the Alvarez Empire arc, which, yeah, of course, you can clearly see it a mile away, and stuff like that. So, yeah, essentially the thing is, after freaking Acnologia loses his arm, he just flies the fuck out of there. He's like, yeah, I lost an arm. I think I'm done fighting for today before I lose my damn life. So yeah. So essentially, the entire country of Fiore is saved. The continent is saved. And this is when we have the Dragon Slayers, essentially to confront their own dragons and stuff like that. We get an emotional scene with Natsu and Ignio as Ignio's falling, and you just have it to where obviously, definitely number one emotional moment in Fairy Tail, which is Natsu mourning over the death of Ignio. which a lot of people, from what I heard, it broke them to tears, is when you just have Nasu saying, I wanted to show you everything that I've come and I've grown and stuff like that. And now you're dead and I can't show you that stuff and everything. Essentially, the other Dragon Slayers confronted by their dragons essentially say this. We find that Skiadrim and Wyslogia implanted fake, I guess you can say mind-boggling type of things in Sting and Rogue's minds to make them think that they killed him. But no, they just weren't dead this entire time and stuff like that. So Grandine actually goes on to reveal that the dragons essentially have been dead for years. They've essentially been dead for 400 years, and essentially Agnologia essentially tore the spirits out of them, and they went inside, obviously, their dragon slayers to stay alive for the most part, to have that spirit and life for the most part, but as well as make sure they prevent their own dragon slayers from turning into dragons themselves and stuff like that. So eventually they're like, well, we got to go. This is the last thing we could do. We gave the last bits of energy we had to destroy Face. So listen, you can thank us. Again, everybody is pretty damn emotional. And this is when Grandina says, 400 years ago, there was a Magna Carta between dragons and humans. Yes, not the Magna Carta from England and stuff like that. Apparently, Fairy Tale has their own Magna Carta. Great history lessons you want to learn. 400 years ago, there was a document where it was between dragons and humans, and essentially Grandine is like, listen, we dragons, even though we may be gone, will still look after you humans for all this time and stuff like that, which goes to show you, like Zirconis' story said back in the Grand Magic Games arc, there were good dragons and there were bad dragons. We're also, I'm guessing, I think it's confirmed that Igneal was the guy that led the good side of the dragons to have trust in humans and everything. So yeah, it makes sense from that case and everything. Now, obviously, Natsu's still emotional, crying over this, but Igneal tells him, listen, you need to stand on your own 2 feet, and it's time to grow you a pair of balls, and listen, get over this. Listen, I'm always going to be with you. I've always been with you. I've seen your growth from the beginning, which, hey, all the dragons have seen the growth of their representative children, quote unquote, you can say. And essentially, Natsu is like, you're right. And this one, Natsu vows to get stronger to that one day defeat Agnologia, which, again, is another foreshadowing to the Alvarez Empire arc at the very end, when Agnologia was the final antagonist, even though he should have never been the final antagonist of the story. He should have died here, because it would have made the dragon's whole coming back thing completely made sense. But again, I'll get into that when we get to the Alvarez Empire arc. Oh, you can trust and believe. I have some things about the Alvarez Empire arc I would love to say, and stuff like that. So yeah. Anyways, after the fight with the Tartaros, after the battle against Tartaros, which is essentially a week, we see that there's been destruction all over Fiore, as well as all the other guilds because of Face stuff. We see that the Thunder Legion are all A-okay. Loxus is good. Now, Loxus essentially says he means his most to him, and he says, I couldn't protect you with who I was now, essentially saying he's not strong enough and he needs to go get stronger. We get a very emotional scene between Gray and Juvia, to where Gray visits his parents' gravesite. He asks why Juvia followed him, and this is when Juvia tells Gray that she defeated Keys, which in turn defeated her father. It looks like Gray is pretty damn upset and pissed off at Juvia, but he essentially embraces Juvia, literally puts his face in her chest. I'm not saying that just for fan service scenes. It was a very heartfelt, touching scene, which obviously developed and grew the Groovia ship, because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, Juvia was the last person Gray ever truly had in his life that had an affection for him, a person that actually deeply cared about him. And the same goes for Gray. Even in One Hundred Quest, we know that Gray essentially hasn't confessed to Juvia's feelings, but he's told other characters that, well, guess what? He's essentially feels the same way Juvia feels about him, which I can't wait for when he finally confesses to Juvia that he loves her. I think that will make it a full circle turnaround thing of this whole love story between Gray and Juvia. And again, like I said, it was an emotional moment. I love this moment between Gray and Juvia because it grows their relationship, as I want to say their relationship taking it serious, like a dating type of thing, to the point where Gray knows, well, I only have one more person left in my life that is going to be there for me to the very end, and that's Juvia, and I can respect that, and stuff like that. Which we see during the time skip, they actually live together. So yeah, but that's it. And he thanks her for saving his father and stuff like that, and they just have an emotional embrace. Urza has her quick run-in with Jalal. She's kind of reflecting back to the torturous scene she had with Kyoka, and that kind of reminds her of the Tower of Heaven stuff. And it kind of actually freaking scares her. Again, I would probably be in the same shoes because, good God, getting tortured like that and having an antagonist, an enemy say, oh, you're going to like this, and saying all these nasty, devious things and stuff like that. And it actually reminds you of your past. It's like, yeah, but Jalal walks past her and he tells her, listen, you're going to be okay, Urza. You know, just follow the path of light and you're going to be okay. And I find it funny how Crime Sorcier, especially Crowberry's like, this motherfucker needs to think that he's acting so cool, isn't he? Which is a funny thing because this has been an ongoing gag with Jalal and Urza. The fact that mostly Jalal's side companions always say, why do you have to look so cool talking to her? You just can't freaking act like a normal dude and talk to her and stuff like that. But by Jalal talking to Urza, this reassures her. And Urza says, well, at least my fears have cooled away for now and stuff like that. Jalal goes on to say, Crime Sorcier will follow the path of darkness that will eventually lead them to Zareth. I guess you could say somewhat hinting at the Alvarez Empire arc, even though Jalal never, ever confronts Zareth at all. Honestly, if you ask me, it kind of sucks from that standpoint that, well, Jalal never got to see Zareth in person. He was just in the whole events of place that took place and stuff like that. So, yeah, we see Minerva rejoin Sabretooth. The entire guild is happy to see her again, and she's happy to be back in it. We have a very interesting talk with Makarov and Doranbolt. So Doranbolt erased everybody's memory about the Lumen Histoire, but he didn't erase his own memory yet. He was about to do it in front of Makarov, but Makarov's like, nah, you can keep it. And that's when essentially Makarov reveals to Doranbolt that, well, guess what? You remember back in the Temeral Island arc when he was called Mest? Oh, yes. No, we find out that Doranbolt, actually, his real name is Mest, and he is been a part of the Fairy Tale Guild. And essentially the thing is, if you're wondering why the hell would he not remember that, well, Mest erased his memory back when he was given this mission to infiltrate the Magic Council, and he erased his own memory. Don't know why Mest in the past would do that, but okay. But the thing is, Lahar always talked about the fact that Makarov would always visit the Magic Council and everything, trying to look for Mest. And that was an interesting thing and stuff like that. So, yeah, so it was damn near interesting, that the whole thing. I'm guessing Makarov wanted Mest to go in there and say, what are the things the Magic Council are doing, which I'm guessing, especially not the weapons that they were making, apparently, and stuff like that. Now, Makarov in his speech is where Mest is like, well, I guess it's better than the time to freaking join the guild, huh? Makarov's like, yeah, about that, that's not going to happen. I think because of everything that's happened, I think it's about time for the end of this era, especially for Fairy Tail. So that's why I disbanded the game. That's why I disbanded the guild, and everybody's off going to go off and do their own things and grow on their own 2 feet. Yeah, disband the Fairy Tail. Mind you, this whole story takes place maybe about a month or 2 after the events of the Grand Magic Games arc. Literally, Fairy Tail just comes back together. Been probably about a month or 2, and they're already breaking up and disbanding the guild. What the hell are we going on here? Makarov just didn't want to step down and appoint a new guild master. He could have did that. But I feel like the reason why they did this here is essentially, it's like, I feel like the reason why they did this whole thing here was the fact that, yes, Fairy Tail got the job done in defeating Tartaros, but the aftermath of the Tartaros arc was so hard-hitting to these characters where they lost a lot. And essentially, things go on to where, guess what? It's a happy ending, but it kind of ends on a somber note where you're like, the heroes won, but not very happy win, huh? And that's what we see. Like I said, Grey Juvia, the whole thing, the freaking Elfman stuff and everything. Everybody in their own mamas in their shoes has an effect has a whole type of feeling after the aftermath of the Tartaros Arc, because psychologically it affected the guild of Fairy Tail as a whole to the point where, sayonara, Fairy Tail, we're gonna be gone for a year, and stuff like that, until Natsu gets the idea to bring the guild back together again. But at this point, we don't know why Makarov disbands the guild. Now, it's later explained in the story why he ended up disbanding the guild, but obviously he disbands the guild, and that's why it's like Tartaros with me. It's like, it's a great arc, and I like the fact that they ended on a note where it's not actually pretty happy. Most characters go their separate ways. Most characters have their own damn dilemmas where they end up coming out of this arc damn near depressed as shit. Like, yeah, fucking Lux is saying, like, bitch, I wasn't strong enough to help my friends. Urza's thinking about the tortures and shit she's going through. Even though Jalal reassured her, she's still thinking about that shit. Grey and Juvia have been through an emotional moment with the whole connection they went through in the aftermath. Lucy, after she finds out, oh, yep, Natsu, sees a note from Natsu saying, oh, I'm dipping. Yeah, I'll see you in a year or so. So tell the others I'll be back by then. You know, you have that whole situation. You have Lucy, who's obviously still emotionally, you know, just scarred from the Aquarius sacrifice. You see her running, she's like, why would you leave me, Natsu, and stuff like that? You know that I'm not in a good place right now, which, yeah, I think at this point, you can kind of, at this point, it's literally kind of indirectly confirmed here that Lucy is clearly in love with Natsu, because even when Natsu comes back and they have their little interaction with Juvia again, after the 1 year time skip, Lucy does make a mention after the 1 year time skip, after she meets up with Natsu, talking to Juvia, that you just upped and left me, and you just left me high and dry, and you never asked if I wanted to come along, which, again, indirectly at that point confirmed that, well, Lucy has feelings for Natsu, and she definitely is in love. I see, at this point, I think I've already said it before, but I think at this point, especially at this point, the way Lucy takes the news of Natsu dipping without telling her, and the way she's like, you don't even think about how I feel in all this whole situation. I think at this point, this was the part when I would say Lucy fell in love with Natsu, or when she had legit 100%, you know, romantic feelings for him, because really that was the one person she could have went to. And I envisioned if Natsu had stayed for the 1 year, or if Lucy, or if Natsu brought alongside Lucy on their little training quest, on his training quest with Happy, would you say they might have maybe hooked up and maybe just been an item, not a married couple? Probably just an item like how Gajo and Lovey were? Probably, because Natsu would have been there for her, especially through this tumultuous time. But sadly, so I say this was probably the part when Lucy finally developed 100% her romantic feelings for Natsu. That was a whole sad scene too, because you can understand where Lucy's coming from. Like, why would my best friend, the person who recruited me to come to Fairy Tail, just up and leave me a note and saying I'm leaving, and you don't even ask, you don't even ask me, or you don't even tell me to my face that you're leaving, and then you don't even bring me along with you. And stuff like that. So yeah. So he's going to, Natsu goes away to train for a year, which we see him train, and then he gets super powerful by then. That's when we eventually find out he's got his Fire Dragon King stuff power up. Gray says he vows to take down E&D, and that's kind of where the arc ends. Like I said, the arc ends on a somber freaking note for our heroes. Like, even Wendy, she's still kind of sad and depressed because Carla and Lily talk about Wendy's whole still reacting to after the dragon thing, and Wendy still is just getting by. And that's what I love about this arc at the end. Like, yes, the heroes won, but clearly there's traumatic experience for all these heroes where it takes them to go different paths and they go on their own different ways and stuff like that and do their own things for about a year. For them, after the year passes, they all come back together again to fight for one common goal and reunite Fairy Tail again. But the arc doesn't end there. We get a post-credit scene at the end of the Tartaros arc where we have Zeref just chilling in some sort of apparent, very voluptuous, rich type of royal-like place. Another foreshadowing to Alvarez Empire. And this is when Zeref again wonders if Natsu is going to get stronger than him. And that's when he's like, well, he will, because he's Aetherius, Natsu Dragneel. And if you don't know what that means, Aetherius Natsu Dragneel, as obviously they're panning right on the book of E&D, it essentially confirms that Natsu is E&D. Now, it's later told in the Alvarez Empire arc, but here it's strongly implied. I guarantee you when people first watch this, they're like, oh shit, Natsu's E&D, because it makes sense. E, Aetherius, N, Natsu, D, Dragneel. So, yeah, so you're dropped off with that whole bombshell of, oh shit, Natsu's E&D, what the fuck? Yeah, and then the whole, like I said earlier, the whole fact of the Tartaros arc for our heroes. Yes, they defeated Tartaros, but again, like I said, it ended on a somber note where our characters, Wendy, Lucy, Gray, Juvia, Natsu, Gajil, Levy, Urza, they're all affected by this whole traumatic experience and the whole, aftermath of the Tartaros arc, where clearly all this emotional trauma stuff affects them. And it goes to show that I think, everybody going their own separate ways in Fairy Tail was definitely much needed for everybody in the guild, because my God, after that, I want to know how they would have been able to come in the next day and start rebuilding the guild and be like, yeah, let's get back things to normal when obviously, things ain't right. So obviously we find out why Makarov disbanded the guild. It's for another reason, but I guess you can say maybe for everybody. But then again, it's kind of also screwed up too, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm disbanding the guild. And everybody's like, obviously the entire guild is probably like, why? So yeah, but again, like I said, that's later explained in the Alvarez Empire arc, in the build up to Alvatar in the Alvarez Empire arc. But the Tartaros arc was a good arc. It was very interesting to say the least. And again, just like all the other previous arcs before this arc got started up, how the previous arcs were building up to the Tartaros arc, this arc had its job to build up to obviously the future of the Alvarez Empire arc, which, honest to God, Alvarez Empire arc was supposed to be the top tier arc. It was supposed to be better than this, but it's mid for me. But the Tartaros arc is definitively the best arc in Fairy Tail. It had heart, emotion, great moments, and just a lot of times where you just felt the darkness and the despair for our heroes. Like there was parts where it's like, they're not going to get out of this. And then the plot twist with the Igneel and the Dragon Slayers and stuff like that, just crazy stuff. This arc definitely hits you hard. And it's something that the Fairy Tail series, even leading into one in your quest, always has that lasting freaking impact. Like hell, the most recent chapters had ties into the face stuff for Elentier in one in your quest. That was all from this arc alone. And again, Tartaros is an arc that hits you hard like a truck. And by the time the end of this arc is over, you just want to probably to be like, okay, I need to take a break. I need to get my emotions in check. So, yeah, and that's kind of it. So I love this arc. Other than really the Urza versus Kyoka battle, this arc is damn near perfect, literally. It's the best arc in Fairy Tail. Now, my favorite arc of all time of Fairy Tail is the Grand Magic Games arc, but this arc definitively, objectively, is the best arc in Fairy Tail. And I like where they took the story. And it goes to show you that Majima had the story planned out. It wasn't something rushed together. It was all planned out. He had this from the step. And yeah, so that's it. But other than that, guys, next time we are going to be talking about the anime only arc, and that is the Fairy Tale Zero arc, which we don't see what's going up to date with obviously the Fairy Tale members. Actually, we cut way, way, way back to the ancient past, where Mavis Vermilion was alive and well, and we get the backstory of Mavis Vermilion, understanding what led her to create Fairy Tale, as well as we see what led Zeref to becoming, well, the man who he is, who we'll see in the Alvarez Empire arc. And that's obviously the Black Wizard Zeref and the motives behind why he does what he does. And I definitely can't wait to talk about it because I feel like the anime did a good thing in that, of the whole aspect of giving a backstory to Mavis of how Fairy Tale was created, because it just gives more depth to it. So Majima definitely played a hand in that anime arc, because in the manga, you just get straight to the Avatar arc. After this, 1 year time skip out Avatar arc. You don't get this backstory with Mavis. So yeah, but that's going to be next week's video. So after next week, after Fairy Tale Zero, we're going to be reviewing. I'm going to be reviewing the Fairy Tale or the Avatar arc of Fairy Tale. After that, I will be reviewing Dragon Cry, the movie, which is the second Fairy Tale movie, and then the last two videos of this Fairy Tale arc review series will be the capping to this series, and that is going to be the Alvarez Empire arc, which I know for my sanity, and I know for maybe you guys, you probably can't wait to hear what I'm going to talk about in that arc, because like I said earlier, I think Alvarez Empire has some good, some bad, some really bad, but some pretty really good stuff in it. Again, Alvarez Empire, for me, it's mix, or it's mid-tier of an arc, but I definitely can't wait to do this. So really, I only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more videos of Fairy Tale, and that's it of the arc review series. But other than that, guys, if you guys like the video, leave a like. Put in the comment section your thoughts on the Tartaros arc as a whole. Do you like it? Do you not like it if you're, I guess, some idiot? And is this your favorite arc? Other than that, hit the subscribe button if you want to get more Fairy Tale arc reviews, as well as any other Fairy Tale content I upload to the channel, like my Fairy Tale 100 Quest manga chapter reviews. And when you do hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell icon to make sure you're up to date with whatever I upload to the channel, because it will go straight to your inbox. Other than that, guys, I'll see you guys next Monday for Fairy Tale Zero. Till then, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.